First of all, let me just apologize to everyone for what I'm going to say somewhere in this interview, because surely I will offend somebody. Well, I was class clown, you know. I'm a success story of a class clown. Most of them are in prison now, and I certainly could have been had Star Trek not worked out. But yeah, I grew up watching Lucy and Laurel and Hardy, and I was a fan of just about everybody who ever lived, who did comedy. Well, I had a wonderful teacher in high school, Cecil Pickett. Not just in high school, in college as well, because when I graduated from high school, he did too. And he went to University of Houston, well, first Houston Baptist College and then University of Houston. And many of the students, including me, followed him from one school to another. He basically groomed and inspired dozens and dozens of kids, many of whom are people you know in show business today. Like the Quaid brothers, Randy and Dennis, were in our class, and Tommy Shalami, who produced The West Wing. He really was, when I was with him, he really groomed us basically in versatility. That was sort of what he pushed. It was like, I want you to know how to do everything. I want you to do Shakespeare, I want you to do Restoration, I want you to do Molière, I want you to do modern plays, I want you to do musicals. And so we did everything. And his idea was really basically to prepare us for the real professional world. And there was no question, that's what we were going to do.
I just love scanning for life forms. Life forms. You tiny little life forms. You precious little life forms. Where are you?
When Star Trek came along, I was in debt, yeah. I owed some money, and I was looking for a pilot. I'd come to LA. You know, I'd done some Broadway shows and some off-Broadway shows, and I came out to LA with a production of Little Shop of Horrors. But I did a few guest shots and Hill Street Blues and Cheers and a few other things, and then I got this audition for Star Trek. And I wasn't really all that excited about it because I didn't think it could work, basically. I thought, Star Trek is Star Trek. You can't do another Star Trek. And, but the series was sold for a year. So I thought, well, if I do this and I get it, I could pay off all my debts, and then I'll go on with my life after that, because it couldn't last more than a year.
I am sorry I let you down. I have not been behaving like myself lately. No, Data, you haven't. You've been behaving like a human.
That was one of my questions, is this guy supposed to be a robot, or is he more like a person? Do you want him more like a robot, more like a person? They said, no, we'd really like him more like a person. And I said, okay. So I worked on it, and actually went to the audition, and I was just about to go in, and Junie came out, and she said, they've changed their minds, they want him more like a robot. And I said, oh, well, I think I better go then, because I'm not prepared to do that. She said, well, don't leave, just a minute. And she came in, and she went in, and she came back out, and she said, maybe they'd like you to read for Riker. And I went, no, I don't think so. I don't think I'm really a Riker. I really wanted to read for this character. So she said, all right, just a minute. So she went back in, and she came out, and she said, all right, they said go in and just do it the way you were going to do it. So I did. There was a reference in the pilot, which Gene Roddenberry wrote, referring to Data as Pinocchio. And I thought that was a really good jumping off point. I mean, that seemed like that was the essence of it. And I spoke to him about it, and he said, yeah, he's basically the little boy who, wants to be human and wants to be real. And his idea for the thrust of the series was that he will get closer and closer and closer as the years go on. And at the end of it all, he will be as close as you can possibly be to being human, and still not. And I think they stayed on that trajectory, all of them, the writers, through the series and the films.
For 34 years, I have endeavored to become more human. grow beyond my original programming. Still, I am unable to grasp such a basic concept as humor.
They had already introduced the idea of the emotion chip in the series, that its existence. And they decided in the first movie, let's give him the emotion chip. And once he has it, he will be different forever. And I thought that was a really fabulous idea. I mean, a character that you've known for 7 years, 178 episodes, and suddenly you change him forever. And it was something that the fans, some of them liked and some of them didn't. But then, you know, that's the case with everything. So you just have to kind of go with whether you think it's going to be interesting or not. And for me as an actor, it allowed me to play all sorts of other stuff that I'd never played in the series.
I wish to be deactivated until Dr. Crusher can remove the emotion chip.
Are you having some kind of malfunction?
No, sir. I simply do not have the ability to control these emotions.
Data, I have nothing but sympathy for what you are feeling. But right now, I need you to...
Sir, I no longer want these emotions.
I think at the end of the first movie, there was sort of a decision not to use it again. And I think either me or somebody else really pressured him into bringing it back. Again, Data was a character who I think had endless possibilities from the very beginning. He could be anything. He tried on all the clothes of humanity and to experiment with what is it to be a human. And giving him the ability to also experiment with emotion just increased the possibilities.
Oh, yes. I hate this. It is revolting.
More?
Please.
The catering was way better once we got into the movies. It really was. The food was just excellent. But everything else was pretty much the same. We were still on the bridge. We were still, on the ship. We were still wearing pretty much the same uniforms. It's pretty much. I think we had new uniforms for the first movie. And the size was a bit, we had these moments like the crash, which was huge. But that was a special effect. For us, we were still shaking in our chairs and pretending that the ship was vibrating. For us, the biggest thing, I think, was we had more time. We weren't shooting an episode an hour and 7, 8 days. We had a little more time to do stuff. Being out, we weren't on location much on the series, very rarely. And we started that film on the tall ship out in the marina. And that was really fun. To be in those naval costumes and just to be out on a boat all day long. It was great. And I remember they took wages. We took bets to see who was going to get sick first. And everybody bet that I was going to get sick first, and I never did. And they actually had to take one of the DPs off the ship because he got so sick. But I had my sea legs. Arr. Star Trek movies are a different beast. There's movies and there's Star Trek movies. And not just Star Trek movies, I think sci-fi movies in general. These movies were not like, these were escapism. These were for the fans and for people who enjoy space operas, I felt 178 episodes, I felt like we did one episode that was very, very long. It lasted 7 years. It was just a continuing story, so I'm not sure they exactly stand alone as, pieces of cinema. They're part of the whole oeuvre of Star Trek, which is, a pleasant thing. I certainly think of the 4 movies that we made, the best one was the second one, First Contact. I thought this is going to be interesting. I thought it was a real stroke to bring the Borg in, who were the best villains we'd ever had, and one of the best creations of our series. I think if there were just 2 things about our series as opposed to the original series, because there were only the 2 at that point, that was significant was the Borg and the holodeck. Those were kind of the 2 real strokes of genius. And so I thought it was a good idea to bring the Borg into the films. And that proved to be the case, too. I think it worked beautifully.
I am the beginning, the end, the one who is many.
You know, I was a little concerned initially that I was being taken out of the action, that the action was all happening and I was stuck unconscious with the Borg Queen. But that was just the first draft, and then it got better and better and better. And then once they cast Alice, it got really good. And she was just amazing. And yeah, I thought it was a great B story, was the Data Borg Queen story.
You must be aware that I am programmed to evolve, to better myself.
We too are on a quest to better ourselves, evolving toward a state of perfection.
It was cool having Data having a quote-unquote romantic episode, but albeit with the Borg Queen. But yeah, that was fun. That was exciting. It had all sorts of possibilities in it, and I can't tell you what really happened, but no.
I am fully functional, programmed in multiple techniques.
You know, everybody wants someone who's unavailable. And that's what made him attractive. But I think also what made him attractive was that he was, there was no potential for cruelty in him. You know, there was a safety around him because he wasn't programmed with cruelty. So you put nice together with unavailable, well, irresistible.
Data!
Resistance is futile.
First Contact, the fact that it landed, sort of, was just a great experience. I mean, we went to London, and the premiere in London was fantastic. The premiere was for a benefit for the Prince's Trust, so we all met Prince Charles, and that was incredible. It really was. It was a great experience, and knowing that the film was good and that it had been well received by the time we got to London was a bonus. Being part of this franchise is only specific, but I don't know that it's that different, say, from being a successful basketball player on the LA Lakers. You know what I mean? Or being A-Rod to Yankee fans, or to, you know what I mean? It's just success changes your life. And there just happens to be this group of people who are interested in what it is you do. But specifically, I think Star Trek has gotten kind of a bad rap as far as, the fans have gotten a bad rap as far as being somehow different than other fans, or in some way more vocal than other fans. I don't think they really are. I think they're really nice fans. You know, if you go to a Star Trek event, none of these people are like yelling and they have veins sticking out in their necks, you know? I mean, you go to a basketball game, the people in the stands are screaming and they're like hostile, and you know, if you go to a soccer game in England, they're beating each other up, you know? So by comparison, I think Star Trek fans are sort of like very normal, smart people who just happen to like this particular, shall I say the word, oeuvre.
Believing oneself to be perfect is often the sign of a delusional mind.
Well, I didn't do conventions initially for a few years, mainly because I didn't think I had time. And because the idea of appearing someplace as myself wasn't in my training. It wasn't, you know, I had been trained to be other people, and not at all to be showing up and standing on a stage and winging it with questions about me. And what convinced me was Patrick came back from a convention one weekend and said, "You're really missing a bet." And this is while we were doing the series. You know, it's an opportunity to go someplace and get out of town for a couple of days and you're really well treated, and they pay you. And so I thought, well, all right, I'll give it a shot. And so I did, and I do. You know, it's part of me, and it will follow me wherever I go. And sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's a nuisance. But for the most part, it's good. The only times it's ever a nuisance is when people sort of either can't sort of accept that that was a character and that I'm really just an actor who played that character. That's kind of bothersome just a little bit, you know. I mean, it's nice to be recognized, but you kind of want to say, well, you know, that really was a character, and you do know that I'm really like a real person. That being said, I am most grateful to have had this great part to play and been part of this amazing epic that is Star Trek, and way, way, way more ups than downs about it.